In watercolor painting, the surface that we paint on plays a crucial role in our painting process. I'm going to show you what kind of paper I use, why I use it, and I'm going to give you some tips on how you can get the most out of every sheet of paper. Paper is so important in the watercolor process. You need water, you need paint, and you need paper to make a watercolor painting. And the surface that we choose to use makes a big difference. And there are so many options and variables in paper. You have cold press, you have hot press, you have handmade. There's a lot to think about when it comes to watercolor paper. The number one thing I always say is use 100% cotton mold-made paper. The ingredients of the paper make a big difference. If it's a wood-based paper or a percentage of cotton, it's not going to handle washes the same way. It's more likely to buckle and become a headache as you paint. So rule number one, use 100% cotton mold-made paper. The second thing is that texture matters. Texture makes a difference. So let's talk about texture a little bit. Hot press is a very smooth surface. Cold press is a little bit more texture. And rough is even more texture. So those are kind of your three stages in texture. It goes from really smooth paper, a little more textured, to a lot of texture. Now I like to use rough textured paper. I like to see the texture of the paper in my painting. Now if you're painting something more detailed, something very elaborate and precise, you might want to use hot press paper. That smooth texture might work better for you than something that's a little more rough. Cold press is kind of in the middle. So I generally use cold press paper or rough textured paper. If you're confident in the type of paper that you like and you've determined the right texture, the right brand of paper, then you can order large sheets of your watercolor paper. What I prefer to do is order these large sheets of paper, and then I can tear them down to the right size that I prefer to paint with. I use Saunders Waterford. This paper is 140 pound. That's the weight of the paper, how thick the paper is, and it's rough textured. I never paint this large of a size. This is 22 by 30 inches. So before I paint, I split my paper in half, at least. Sometimes I'll split it in half, then split it again. So I'm painting on a quarter sheet. So the first thing I do is I fold this paper in half. Now, some people think that you shouldn't touch your paper. I'm not really concerned with that. The way I paint is not a super tight rendering of something that's very detailed. I'm creating more of an impression of a scene. And so I'm not too worried about leaving the grease of my fingers on the paper. Those little minute differences to me don't really matter a whole lot. You know, the way I see it is if my fingerprints causes some little smudge, maybe it'll add an extra bit of character to part of my painting. First thing I do, fold my paper in half. Now, I have this little travel brush, and it is metal, and it's very smooth. So I take something hard and smooth like this on a hard surface. I reinforce that fold that I just created. Then I flip it over. I do the same thing on the other side. Then I flip it over, do the same thing on the other side, until I've created a really tight fold on the paper. Then once I've done that, I make a small little tear where that fold is. Then I put my hand on the paper and I slowly pull the paper and let it tear right along that line. Just like that. Now I'm left with what's called a half sheet. This is 15 inches by 22 inches. So this is about the biggest size of painting I usually do. I usually don't go much larger than a half sheet. There's plenty of room to work here. It's really fun to paint this size, and I'm comfortable with painting this size. Often, I'd say maybe 70% of the time, I'm painting a quarter sheet. So if you want a quarter sheet, you take your half sheet, you fold it in half. I make another fold along here. Gonna do the same process I did to cut the paper in half. Make a small tear until I have 2 quarter sheets. Those are the typical sizes that I paint in. Here's a quarter sheet, here's a half sheet, and that's how I cut my paper before I paint. So most high quality papers, you can also paint on the back of the paper. I also can use the back for a value study or some type of brushwork exercise or anything like that. So I'm not just throwing away this paper if it doesn't work out for me. I'm using it as I make other paintings. And so I'm getting the most out of every sheet of paper I can. I know paper's not cheap, but if you're gonna invest in an area of supplies, paper's a good one to invest in. Paper does make a big difference. Painting on a good surface is very important. I have a free gift for you. Watercolor is not a very forgiving medium. It's hard to correct. So having a plan from the beginning is crucial. That's why I created this free video lesson, 7 Secrets of Fresh, Powerful Painting. I give you 7 powerful tips, mindfully paint your scene, and most importantly, know when you are done and avoid overworking. Many students have already watched this video lesson and are seeing great results, and I know that it can help you out as well. All you have to do is follow the link in the description down below, and you can start painting more fresh and powerful paintings. So keep working, keep moving forward, and you're learning as an artist, and I will see you next time.